My guest today is Michael Carter, who is founder and managing partner of Carter, Morse Goodrich, a Connecticut-based investment banking firm specializing in M&A for founders and families. We recently connected because he posted an article on LinkedIn about Push for Entrepreneurship, which is a 2-hour push-up fundraiser. I saw that article and I immediately had to reach out because I thought it'd be fun to shoot a video interview, number one, about his life, but number two, as we did push-ups. So we're going to mix it up a little bit today. I asked if he would do it. We had to do a long prep call, and no worries. He cleared that I am somewhat sane. I think we have a mutual crazy twinkle if we're doing push-ups in the video interview. But today, what we're really going to focus on is the key lessons that he has had over 30 plus years of deal making and starting an investment banking firm. But maybe to start off, Michael, I would love to know, 6 to 7 years ago, you met your college roommate at a restaurant. Can you tell us about that experience? And as you are doing that, I'm going to knock out my first 25 push-ups as we get, my goal today is 300. You ask if I'm doing like my 5 to 10 favorite push-ups. I have one favorite push-up. So I'm just going to do that 300 times.
And Jordan, I will not judge you, okay?
Oh no, judge away. Judge away. My wife and co-founder and COO and CFO and every other title, Jing is behind us. We'll be keeping track. So I'll knock out my first 25. And Michael, over to you for that story about 6 to 7 years ago.
Well, Jordan, it is great to be here. I get about 25 unsolicited emails every day. Don't respond to any, but no one has ever challenged me to do push-ups and do an interview. So look at Jordan's stuff. Man, he's got good form. So he approached me, did my homework, made sure he was a little bit insane, which I look for, and asked me to kind of start off with why push-ups. And so about 7 years ago, met my college roommate. Was a real slug in college. I was an athlete, and he told me he could do 50 push-ups in a pretty fancy restaurant, which I told him was obscene. I did 20, working out for about 4 days a week. He knocked out 50, and I went home just blown away that he could do 50 push-ups. Lo and behold, within 3 weeks, I was doing 50, and kind of a light bulb went off, and it said, wow, think of all the things I do throughout the week where I'm basically working at 40%. And so this led, it's a short story and a long story, but it led to my founding of Push for Entrepreneurship, a 2-hour push-up event. And people do as many push-ups as they want in 2 hours. The neat thing about it is when I introduce it to people, the first words out of 90% of the people's mouths is, I can't. And invariably, once I get them just a little bit sold, they can. And it's just an awesome event. Anyone who can do, I'll say 20 push-ups can easily do the 2 hours. So it's a lot of fun. We raise money for innovation, education, and entrepreneurship in the inner cities of Connecticut, where they don't have access to this quality program. And teaching innovation and entrepreneurship has been one of my passions in life.
That's awesome. It's really interesting to think about that sometimes instinctive reaction when people, including us, we say, I can't do this. I don't know if I can. I won't do it. I can't do it. And like, what's the difference between that and then the people who say, yeah, I'll do it. I'll figure it out.
What is that about? It's really about fear of failure. And I mention that because frankly, most of my life, I operated on fear of failure. And I think it's just a natural progression of the way we teach kids, and they're enjoying life, and invariably success and failure kicks in right around between ages 10 and 12. And that's when kids drop out of dance, drop out of baseball, drop out of sports, drop out of music. And so that fear of failure really kicks in. I'm also getting very jealous of your push-ups, so I'm going to walk over to my push-up dining room. Okay. What the significance of this? The significance of this sign behind me is this is a sign. It's in our kitchen here.
Wait,
it's a sign.
Kitchen?
This is our. Well, I say dining room and kitchen, but this is our kitchen. The Carpe Diem is so every kid and wife and me wake up and we see the Carpe Diem sign, which is kind of, for lack of a better word, my war cry.
That's really interesting though, when you're talking about like fear of failure, and that made me kind of think about this question, which was like, what would you do if you knew you would fail, as opposed to knowing that you wouldn't fail, or the risk level. You know, I think it's.
What would I do if I knew I was going to go? Let me reframe let me first do some push-ups to make sure people know I can do them. Okay, so you knocked out 20. I'm going to do 10. All right, so
50.
Okay, so you get that on tape?
I think it was all off. You're gonna have to shoot it again like 20 more times.
No, you kidding? Don't tell me that. Wow, you get a good sense of humor.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Like what? Well, let's go back to that kind of the idea you had about failure, and encouraging kids when they're 12 or 13 to take more risks, and maybe let's tie that then to your story, starting the business 33 years ago.
So let me go back. I mean, when kids are really young, and the notion of failure to me is there's no such thing as failure. All you did is try something and it didn't work out. And the more you try it, the more high likelihood you're going to succeed. So we really try to parent, and I did a lot of coaching over the years. And it was never about failure. It was about pointing out mistakes and improving upon them. Literally, the investment banking firm that I founded, the first thing we do every Monday morning is point out bonehead moves that we all made. And it's something that the culture of the firm isn't about hiding those mistakes, but almost highlighting them, because it's a good learning curve. It's a good, that's how you improve. And so not looking at his failure, but looking at his opportunities to improve. And so that's—
Start the week saying, what did we do last week that we can do better?
Yeah. Or look, I made this mistake. Let's learn from the mistake. And did it, coaching every team that I coached, at the end of the game, that's what we did. We talked about our mistakes. So, all right. So your next push up, I'm going to do, let's see. Okay, this is a good one.
Push up builders. Nice.
Okay. So I'm listening, Jordan.
Well, it's interesting because I think that the perception of failure, the concern about things not working, is such a central theme in entrepreneurship. And one of the things I've been thinking a lot about recently is how 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, when we started to go down this entrepreneurial path, a lot of the previous fears that I had either did not materialize, or they were not even 50% as bad as I thought they would be. And so one of my takeaways from the past couple of years is, like, what would I do if I knew that reality is the worst is rarely going to happen?
Yep.
And if it happens, then it's probably not as bad as you think it's going to happen. And like, I was thinking about this as Jing and I are, in the past year, think about this new chapter in our life in terms of, Jing going full-time with the business and us putting all the, eggs in one basket per se. And it's interesting to think about that because what is the actual downside of that happening? The realistic downside is the business doesn't work. We don't have money. We have to move in with the grandparents in either San Diego or China. And like, is that downside as bad as being 75 and never having a chance to take a risk again because you're going to die? Or like 80, like that 80 years old, 85, 90, like, you know what? I should have done that.
Yep. In my worst case scenario that you couldn't change was what you described. After living a full life, I said, I wish I would only, if only, and not taking those chances. It was far, far more horrible than trying a business and failing. And so I think that was very motivating.
Why did you start the business, or what's your story kind of 33 years ago, getting it going?
You know what? I never really felt comfortable at corporate America. I was never a corporate person, and so was entrepreneurial. Actually started the entrepreneurial club at my business school. And when the first speaker asked who's ahead of this place, I said, I raised my hand. He goes, well, the first thing you should do is learn how to spell entrepreneurship. So that tells you a little bit about how the word was really used that long ago. It just wasn't. But at the end of the day, I think it was about wanting independence, wanting to feel like I created something that had lasting value, and doing something different. And so that's to me, there was a lot of brokers out there. There were investment banks that were overpromising, and we were going to be the entrepreneur's investment bank. And over 33 years have built arguably the premier firm in New England.
Where are you at now? Like this year, in the past couple of years, like what does a good year look like? What's the size and shape of the team? What do you guys focus on? How many deals do you try to close in a year? Things like that.
So I would say, I mean, it's a really interesting question, because 2019 was a record year. This year, we haven't closed a transaction in the first 11 months. And then for 6 months of next year, we're probably going to close more transactions than we ever have. So I think the average transaction when I started was somewhere between 5 and 20 million. And this year we have 3 transactions, and historically our averages were somewhere between 50 and 100. So we're moving up the food chain.
Can you talk about like the past 30 years, 33 years, and you were mentioning beforehand the cycles that you as a business go through, and as you're going through those cycles, just the importance of patience.
You use the word patience, and if it was the last person in America who should be talking about patience, it's me. So I'm really not qualified to do that. I have an incredibly patient senior partner, and so that's why he and I got together. But patience is not something, Jordan, that I should be talking about. I think there's something about an entrepreneur that has to be driven and want to go fast. And it's good to have people surround you that are A, smarter, and B, provide a different perspective. So the one thing that we encourage is dissent. We always want different perspectives. When I work for a big corporation, the last thing you would ever do is disagree with your boss in front of a client. And for us, it's standard operating procedure. They see that. So I think the one thing I say would be continuous improvement. Now, having said that, one push-up I could never do in my life was a Russian push-up. And this summer I did it. So I am very, very proud. So I've got to show that off. All right, Jordan. But this is.
I've never heard of this. I've only heard of one variety of push-up.
Let me get into this. Can you see okay?
Yeah.
When you're doing it, it seems pretty easy, but it's not. Are you counting?
Nope.
So that was it.
1010, 1000.
So those are the little things that get me going, Jordan. So
it's cool. That's really cool. I mean, it was interesting because you could tell that the form is perfect, and you've been working on the form.
Yeah.
What do you think kind of actually, we'll talk about like the first year in business, and what was that like?
So that was a really horrible year. Had saved $60,000, left corporate America, used to going to the US tennis matches, ended up blowing all 60,000, no transaction closed. It was 1987, so we got October 19th mixed in there. But I think what ends up happening is you get a lot stronger when you go through something like that. And that is incredibly important, because at the end of the day, I in 33 years, I had 30 years that looked more like that than the 3 great years, 19 and 20. So we always, I would say, had a underdog mentality. Everyone was against us, and we had to work twice as hard and twice as smart and be twice as good as our competitors. And that ended up being the culture of the company. And I think it served us very, very well. So going through COVID, we're about to have our best, I'll say 12 months within the next 6 months in our 33-year history. So I think we are so much stronger than we were back on March 13th.
Why do people stop challenging themselves physically, mentally? Like, why do we seek comfort?
I think it's easy. I think one of the things that if you found a passion, and a passion could be anything, but if you're passionate about something, it overcomes so much. Steve Jobs has a great quote. It's so hard it's so hard, and if you don't have passion, you're going to just give up. And if a lot of people are starting businesses or working for pure money and without the passion, and pure money motivates until it doesn't, and it often doesn't when it doesn't exist. So in these crisis times, you see a lot of companies just crumble very, very quickly. And like I said, we look at that, and so having passion is very, very important. Passion is the genesis of genius is a famous quote by I forget that motivational speaker. And so it really it helps overcome those times when you're saying, why am I doing this? What am I doing it for? And just remembering that you have a higher calling. And so don't want to get too cosmic about it, but having a higher calling really helps a lot when it comes to when the going gets tough. So that's, attitude is everything, and creating that positive attitude is just very, very important. And the one thing, I didn't have a lot of ingrained skill or intelligence, but I did have a terrific attitude, enthusiasm, and willing to do the hard work. And so that's kind of paid off as well. So those are the kind of ingredients where certain people just give up. So one thing that I just think about when I'm doing my push-ups is the importance of trust. You were kind of making fun of me before I called you. I wanted to check you out, and it was just a matter of who do you trust in the world, and you realize how hard it is to build people's trust.
Wait, do you mean that you didn't instantly trust somebody who had a push-up challenge?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely. But
So,
as I said to you, you got my attention. So, but trust is something that is so hard to get. But building trust in us literally took decades. And but when you have it, it's really, really special. And think about the people you trust in your life. Most people can probably count 5 people on their hands. So we do that many, many different ways. But as Warren Buffett said, in one of his famous lines, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. And so it's one of those things that there's no such thing as the word gray. Something's gray in our firm. We just don't handle that. So nothing's gray. If it's gray, then you're probably not going to be proud if it hits the Wall Street Journal front page. So
you're mentioning something about the growing up and wrestling.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So what wrestling did for me, just to personalize it a little bit, is entering 9th grade, loved sports, but at the end of the day, I was 98 pounds, and there was no sport that would allow a short 98 pounder to do anything other than wrestling. So went out for the wrestling team and got crushed freshman year. At the end of the day, ended up wrestling in high school and college and being the captain of the team twice. And what it did, I think the most important thing, because at the end of the day, I was, didn't achieve any terrific success, but what I did was I became fearless, and there was nothing in life that was going to be anywhere close to as hard as wrestling. And so, and it's basically proved true. So when people always tell me, well, wow, that's really difficult, at the end of the day, it just can't be half as difficult as it was wrestling in high school and college. And so I think what I love about sports is not the sport itself necessarily, but the lessons that people take away from it. And for me, it was a certain element of fearlessness, willing to work hard, by I'll say wrestling standards, and really committing yourself. And once you have that package, I'd like to say you're unstoppable, but I think I was stopped about 30 times in the last 33 years, but you know how to get through it. And there's a great book on grit written by
Angela Duckworth.
Yes, and it's really she put things in words that I didn't have a vocabulary for, but it's a really important quality if any parent still has young kids to read that book. It's just a terrific quality, and it's the key to any success that I've had.
What do you feel that, or how old are your kids?
They're 31, 28, and 25, 24.
And how, what do you hope, they would say about you if I was interviewing them? Like how would they describe the way that you parented, the way that you brought them up?
Oh man, Jordan, you're getting deep. Jeez.
By the way, just finished 300.
Okay, all right. So I'm knocking out 300 in a row then, just to make sure. Okay,
You're doing the difficult ones.
Well, they would definitely mention Murphy's Law, okay? Understanding Murphy's Law and building Murphy's Law into your daily routine and making sure that there's a plan B and you're just always planning for not necessarily success every step, but having a plan B. I think they would recognize that enthusiasm and passion are a cornerstone of a healthy life. I think it's also very important to follow your own passion, not your dad's, your mom's, your teachers, or expectations. And so I'd like to think that they were given a free rein to become a Republican, Democrat, independent, socialist, libertarian, and they were basically told that character is almost everything. Without character, it's so the importance of character. And I'd say lastly, and probably most importantly, is family is we're obsessed about family and the uniqueness of family. And my kids come back, regularly, and it's just wonderful to have them, their spouses, their spouses to be, I shouldn't say, and then lastly, food. We're kind of obsessed with food, so that would be that's the culture of a Carter household. So, but having a good time, carpe diem, see that every day. It's a gift is really very, very important, and I think each one, I'd say, excelled in sports, but not for sports' sake, but for building the things that I talked about. That character and hard work. And
so, two final questions. One is, what advice do you have for a father of two young kids, a 4-year-old and 11-month-old, for not just me to the kids, but me for my wife? And the second question is, at 95 years old, looking back on your life, what is the one thing that you should be able to point to say, I've done it well?
So the advice, I want to give something creative. So the advice is, when you're playing one-on-one basketball with them, win 60% of the time. Okay? and I would say that, and it's one of the things that make sure they're in a contest the entire time. Make sure that they know how to lose gracefully. Make sure they know how to win gracefully. But it's something that whenever we did anything, some competition was involved, and it was always tough. And made sure if they were losing 10-2, they won 12-10, and it was just, and so there's so many embedded lessons in just playing and having sports and really, and so that was kind of a
perfect
one of my fun things to do.
I will apply that to my 4-year-old when she's shooting something. I'm going to swat it away.
Yeah. And really build in, there was not a failure. You lost the game and you lost the game. I mean, it's and it's one of the things that I don't even know if they remember it anymore, but it was something that, always get compliments about how good sportsmanship my kids. I won that award because that was the award they gave to the kid who wasn't very athletic. So that was, it was.
Question is,
what was your question? I forget the other question.
Yeah. So the last question to wrap up this epic push-up session / interview is, if you're on in your final day and you're 97 years old and you're looking back to determine whether or not it was all worth it and whether or not you lived it right, how would you measure if you did or did not live a life worth living?
So I've actually thought about that, and I created a little mantra, I think when I was like 18 or 20, and it was make a difference. And everything that I have ever done in my life, I wanted to make a difference. So just didn't want to create another investment banking firm. Didn't want to serve dinner to our guests at just another dinner. Didn't want to throw a cocktail party at our firm. That's our cocktail parties are famous. That was just another cocktail party. And so making a difference means doing something special, making a difference in people's lives. And so I would say, making a difference in how you coached a sports team, how you, parented. And sometimes, you're unpopular for a day or two. But at the end of the day, that's how I'm going to judge my life. And I'm really, everything I've tried to do is making a difference. So
that's awesome.
So
I think that's a wrap. Thanks a lot for doing this.
Jordan, you're very, very good. I can't give you too many tips on the push-ups, but
except for finding
the chains would be one. The chains would be one. I would highly recommend them. They're terrific to go up that back. So
awesome.
Thank you very much. This is a unique. You made a difference in my life, Jordan. So thank you.